go ahead and take on off, and they can.
By the way, your pointer is perfect.
Okay. What we covered this morning is what I envision as Grant's by the book attempt to take Vicksburg, either down the railroad or by the river, either of which Jomini or Clausewitz or any of those would have approved of. That's how you do it, especially Jomini with the secure lines of transportation and supply routes and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of the theme of this book I'm working on now, which is going to cover Grant's Mississippi Central campaign, Chickasaw Bayou, Forest Raid, Van Dorn's Raid, all that kind of stuff. I'm convinced that Grant he's been elevated in late October. And this goes back, let's go back a little bit into the politics. In summer of 1862, when Halleck is taken to Washington, he's brought to Washington. Grant doesn't take the next ranking, or Halleck doesn't take the next ranking commander in Mississippi or in the West and say, okay, we're going to boot you up to my old position and take my place. He just leaves things the way they are and doesn't fill that position. That should have been Grant. Grant's the ranking commander out west. Now, by the time we get into the fall, in October and November, particularly with Antietam and Perryville and Corinth and all this going on, Halleck basically says, I can't oversee all of this from Washington myself. So I've got to boot some of these guys up to the command that I held. So Grant is promoted on October the 16th into sort of Halleck's old position. He's not commanding the entire West, but he's certainly commanding the Department of the Tennessee, which is a promotion basically for Grant. And Grant now has the latitude to do pretty much what he wants to in the Mississippi Valley. Grant takes command on October 25th. He assumes the command. He gives out the order, I assume command of this department according to orders of October 16th and so and so, so and so. The very next day, October 26th, he starts the operations offensive against Vicksburg. It takes him all in one day to start offensive operations. Now, in my mind, he's thinking, okay, I've just got this new promotion. I don't want to blow it. I got to do things the way that Halleck, who has sponsored me, basically, I've got to do these things right. I've got to do it the way he would want to. Anybody ever gotten a promotion before? Do you want to blow it your first day? No. You want to show them that you can do this. So Grant's going to do things by the book, the way Halleck would have done it. Of course, Halleck wrote the book, right? He's the chief theorizer of military operations and so on in America. He's America's best military thinker. So he wants to do things by the book. So he starts down the railroad, even by the river. Yeah, that's okay. Clear lines of supply and transportation and so on. But Sherman fails here. Grant fails in the Mississippi Valley Mississippi Central Railroad campaign. So Grant realizes, I've got the army down here. I've got to go down, take command. I've got a mess here. Forget the book. Throw the book out the window. And as a result, we start what's going to be the next book, the non-by-the-book stuff. He's got a winter to basically bide his time, and we're going to get into canals across the river, trying to get past Vicksburg. We're going to get into Lake Providence, way over here, trying to get around down to the Red River. We've got Yazoo Pass, trying to get to the Yazoo above Snyder's Bluff. Going to do Steele's Bayou, which you can see right here, trying to get to that high ground above Snyder's Bluff, because everything is still blocked at Snyder's Bluff. So he's trying all this, but once things start kind of drying out by April and May, he says, okay, there's really nowhere else I can go. He says we're down to either just assaulting up these bluffs again, like Sherman tried, or what else do we do? Do we go back up the river to Memphis and start all over? He's gone if he does that. He and Porter go back to Haynes Bluff, Snyder's Bluff, and look and say, can we make an assault here? And he comes away from that saying we probably won't succeed, and it's going to be very bloody. We just can't do that. So what else does Grant have as his options? Well, move on down the river, west side of the river, cross below Grand Gulf. The Navy has run past the batteries, of course. This is very not by the book either, right? I mean, you can't, Jomini and Clausewitz wouldn't have drawn this up. So this is very against the book, kind of outside the box thinking. And you all know the general history. He'll cross at Bruinsburg, which is down, here's Grand Gulf. Bruinsburg is right here, I guess, under by Bayou-Pierre, south of Bayou-Pierre. He will march inland, fight at Port Gibson on May the 1st. Then he'll push up west or east of the Big Black River, using the Big Black River as the shield for his left flank. Pemberton is staying behind the Big Black River, of course. He'll move forward. We'll meet Federals at Raymond. Where's Raymond? Right here on the 12th. Is that Raymond? Does that say Raymond? On the 12th, he will capture Jackson on the 14th, and then turn westward and start moving toward Vicksburg and meet Pemberton as Pemberton comes out from behind not only his defensive works at Vicksburg, but he comes out from behind the defensive parameter that is the Big Black River, which we just crossed. Y'all just crossed it coming out here. So he probably shouldn't have got out from under the earthworks here. Certainly shouldn't have got out from his shield of the Big Black River, but he does so, meets Grant at Champion Hill on the 16th, east of the Big Black River and east of Baker's Creek. So that's where Grant's coming westward. Pemberton is moving eastward, and they're gonna hit at Champion Hill. Let's turn maps real quick to show you where we're going and what we're going to be doing. Hold that up for me, please. Thank you. Okay. All right, this is a different one. This has got individual battles on it. That one of us here. There you go. Good job. Here you see Port Gibson on the 1st, Raymond, Jackson, and all right, thank you. Then Champion Hill, and of course, Big Black River Bridge later on. Here's Port Gibson, Grand Gulf, Big Black River, Raymond, Siege of Vicksburg. Here's what we're looking at, Champion Hill. Tell you what, let's hold this like that. Get a little better view. We are right here at the interstate. What we're going to do is go through Edwards and go out the Raymond Road, Highway, what, 467? Isn't that what it is, I believe? We're going to start out the Raymond Road. We're going to go to the Coker House and see where the fighting occurs down in here, and we'll kind of detail that a little bit. Then come back and go up to the crossroads and the hill itself. Now, just to lay out kind of the battlefield, where's Baker's Creek? This is Baker's Creek right here. The creeks aren't really well. Here's Baker's Creek right here. All right, Baker's Creek kind of does this right here and bends around just south of the interstate. There are two crossings of Baker's Creek, the lower crossing and the upper crossing, two bridges. This bridge has been washed out on May the 14th with all those rains that come in Jackson and all that. The Army, Pemberton's Army, is marching out the Raymond Road, intending, and this gets into a lot of other issues, we don't have time to talk about all of it, but the intention is to break Grant's supply line from Grand Gulf to the Army. Problem is, there is no supply line. Grant has basically cut loose. There are brigade and division level units guarding wagon trains that are coming to the Army, but there's no per se supply line. So Pemberton is on a kind of a wild goose chase to begin with. But when he gets down the Raymond Road, he realizes, okay, Federals are coming on the Jackson Road, so he's got to turn around, and he gets caught here east of Baker's Creek. So there are two crossings, but there are three roads leading into the battlefield. One is the Raymond Road down here, the Coker House and Tillman Monument. We're going to go see that first. And in fact, when we go out, when we cross the creek, tell you what I'll do, I'll kind of slow down almost to a stop right at the lower crossing of Baker's Creek, so y'all can kind of, where I stop, y'all may not in the back be stopping, but you'll see where basically I do, and that's the lower crossing of Baker's Creek. I would hate to pull off right there. It's pretty heavy travel road, and no real place to probably pull off 10 or 12 cars, whatever we got. But then we'll go to the Coker House where we'll have plenty of room. The other two entrances into the battlefield from the east, the main one is the Jackson Road that parallels the railroad, comes in obviously from Jackson, Clinton, Bolton. It will come to where the Baptist Church is now and kind of make a 90-degree angle by the Champion House and then ascend Champion Hill, and I'm not sure I'm even pointing to the right place. Where's Champion Hill? Right here. Yeah, that's the church right there. It'll ascend Champion Hill and then move on down to what's called the crossroads. That's where the third road comes in, the middle road. Let me see. Yeah, middle road right here. The middle road comes in, will join the Jackson Road at right angles, although there are 4 roads. It's a crossroads. The Ratliff Road will actually lead down to the Raymond Road here. The Jackson Road will turn 90 degrees and continue on over the upper crossing, which we'll cross, and you'll see this. So the Jackson Road comes down across Champion Hill to the crossroads, makes a 90-degree right over the upper crossing of Baker's Creek. The middle road just joins the Jackson Road basically at the crossroads. So we're going to go to the Coker House, come back up to the upper crossing, to the Coker House, then to the crossroads, and then on foot. This is where we're going to do our hiking. We'll go up to Champion Hill and then down to where the Champion House was, and we'll look around. Some of you folks that had Alabama folks, we'll look around at the Champion Hill. Well, that's the kind of the little community. This is a modern map. So yeah, the hill is right down here. Okay. So does everybody kind of understand a little bit about the battlefield, where we are, what we're talking about, and so on. So, okay. All right. So what we're doing now, we're going to go through Edwards. Keep up. If we somehow get separated, call Perry. But what we're looking for is going out 467 to the Coker House, and it's right out on the battlefield there. But hopefully we can keep everybody.
Are we gonna leave here on 467?
No, I don't think it's 467. We'll have to go through town, right slap through the middle of town. So
On what road?
I don't know what street this is.
Street right here?
Yeah, I don't know. No, this one right up here.
This is Highway 80, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Highway 80, but we're going that
going.
way. So just we'll make sure you get there. If you don't, call Perry.
I'm gonna text Lost it.
Oh, okay. Well, tell them to go to the Coker House. I think they showed up. Did they not? Thank you. Is that our wayward mark?
Turned out to be a false alarm.
Yes, that's the one.
Oh, well, maybe it didn't turn out to be a false alarm.
That's the one. It was a picture of us on the stairs.
Yeah.
Sorry. State of Mississippi, but now it's transferred over to the National Park Service. So technically, I guess if a ranger shows up,
Is there free beer in here? Is that why everybody's going inside?
Yeah, for me.
There's an organized tour. We just have to show up here one time.
yeah, exactly. Raymond Road. Again, you see the Raymond Road shifting just like this. The middle road here, coming in here, the Jackson Road coming in up here. The crossroads will be right here. Grant is in a good position on the morning of May the 16th. He's left Clinton, left Sherman back in Jackson to basically destroy the place as a military and industrial center, and he has pushed westward with McClernand's Corps, 13th Corps, as well as McPherson's 17th Corps, leaving 2 divisions of Sherman's 15th Corps in Jackson. Now, each of these corps are missing a little bit of their strength. For instance, McPherson's 17th Corps is missing most of MacArthur's division. In fact, MacArthur is on the way with the last wagon train. I talked about brigade or division strength units were guarding wagon trains coming up. So MacArthur's on the way with Ransom's brigade. to the Army. Blair's division of Sherman's Corps, an entire division, Frank Blair's division, will be on the way. In fact, it's just gotten here and joined the Army with another wagon train. Somebody in a golf cart out there.
Yeah, lost one of his balls.
Coming to see what this group is up here, I guess. But anyway, so there are units still joining. Blair's division is the only 15th Corps unit with the Army here. Grant will have 3 divisions. We got dogs. Wait, it never fails. Hey, they always get
You're going to the dogs. You're going to the dogs.
every trek, Shiloh, Fort Donaldson, wherever we get. I'm not gonna hit you, buddy. I'm not gonna hit you. We always wind up with dogs tagging along. And she's all about dogs here. So. Okay. I don't know if I can top the dogs or not. That's the main center of attention. 3 divisions marching on the Jackson Road, 2 on the Middle Road, 2 on the Raymond Road. And we'll talk about the Jackson Road and the Middle Road a little bit later. But the 2 on the Jackson or on the Raymond Road are A.J. Smith's division. We just saw A.J. Smith at Chickasaw Bayou. Behind him is Frank Blair's division of Sherman's Corps. So they're moving up the Raymond Road. They will meet Confederate resistance on this ridge. And I've thought about going down the Raymond Road a little more, but as you can see, there's pretty heavy traffic here, and they go pretty fast, and there's not a turnaround place short nearly of Raymond. So I think it would not be worth, our doing it just for you to see the ridges and so on. But this ridge that we're on here is basically the first Confederate position and a little farther south, which you can see here with Loring's division. Pemberton will have 3 divisions in action here. Grant, their divisions are a little smaller, has 7 actually. But we're talking Confederate divisions. Stevenson's division, for instance, 4 brigades, about the size of a Union Corps, about 12,000 men. So much larger. Loring's division of 3 brigades will be down on the Raymond Road. John Bowen will be in the middle, and then Carter Stevenson with that big Corps-sized division will be at Champion Hill and the Crossroads defending it. Now, they're marching out, of course, the Raymond Road, but they get to the lower crossing of the Baker's Creek that we stopped. Y'all see me stop and kind of, y'all see the bridge. Everybody knows where that is. Unfortunately, the bridge there has been washed out. It's flooded. It's been washed out because of these deluges that occurred on the 14th that we saw in Jackson with the heavy rains and so on. So Pemberton, he's trying to get out the Raymond Road. What does he do? We can either stop and wait for the creek to go down. How long does it take for the creek to go down, though? Takes a while. We don't just sit here and wait. So scouts find the upper crossing up here. So stops here at Baker's Creek, marches up to the upper crossing, out the Jackson Road to the Crossroads, and then down the Ratliff Road back to the Raymond Road. So he just makes a detour and then back out the Raymond Road. Now, when they meet Federals moving up the Raymond Road, Pemberton says all of a sudden, uh-oh, we got to get back out of here. We got to get out of this. So he will retrace his steps back up to Champion Hill and back down the Jackson Road, but that's when he gets caught. So that's basically where the Army is in marching formation, with Stevenson, who was in the rear, now the head of the Army, trying to get out of here, trying to get back behind Baker's Creek. Bowen in the middle, and then Loring, who was the van, is now the rear. And so he will hold the Raymond Road here. So Loring's division, 3 brigades, Featherston, Buford, and who's the other one? Reynolds, I believe. I would have to look. It's been 20 years since I've done this in detail. But 3 brigades here of Tillman, Lloyd Tillman, is holding the Raymond Road against 2 Union divisions, A.J. Smith and Frank Blair. Now, there's all that to say this. There's not a whole lot of fighting down here on the Raymond Road. A.J. Smith does not push very hard. We tend to think of A.J. Smith as a pretty hard fighter and all that, but what did we just see at Chickasaw Bayou? He didn't do much of anything up there around the racetrack. He doesn't do much of anything here at Champion Hill. The Confederates will position artillery here. If you read some of these waysides and so on, very quickly they will fall back to the next ridge, and we're actually going to stop there and see one of the only actual monuments. Now, there are other monuments like the National Historic Landmark Monument, the Ed Barrs Monument. We're going to look at that. That may be somebody mentioned that's a good place to have the group picture. Those are modern monuments and so on. The only historic monument, and that comes way after the Civil War, like 1909 or so, is the Lloyd Tillman monument where he was killed. So we're going to stop there a little bit farther back, but it's the next ridge up that the Confederates then take another position, much like at Shiloh as Grant falls back by stages. You know, he's falling back. Loring is falling back here, but what he quickly realizes is he can't fall back across Baker's Creek, number one, because there's not a bridge there, but by later in the day the creek has started to go down and they can ford it, and they cut down the banks to get across it and start building a new bridge. But he has to hold the lower crossing, because if the Army's going to get out, you've only got two options: the upper crossing and the lower crossing. And by this time, the upper crossing is in Union hands because of what's going on up at Champion Hill. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So Loring has to absolutely hold at the next hill up where the Tillman Monument is, and we'll go see the action there. Now, later in the day, as Stevenson his lines are broken at Champion Hill and at the crossroads, Pemberton, who is up there at the really critical point, starts calling on Bowen and Loring to reinforce the left, which is Stevenson's division up here. Both Bowen and Loring will refuse orders. Do you refuse? Who's military here? Anybody retired military? Do you refuse orders? You don't, that's not a good thing to you know, be promoted and so on.
Yeah.
They refuse to. Where do they learn this? Is it just inbred in them? Well, actually what they've been doing, they're watching their own commander, Pemberton, refuse orders from Joseph E. Johnston. Joseph E. Johnston has told Pemberton, get out of Vicksburg. Get out, come join me over at Canton or Jackson, wherever. Get out of Vicksburg. Vicksburg is a trap. So Pemberton says, forget you, Johnston. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to hold Vicksburg. Now, why does he do that?
Because the president told him he had to hold it at all costs.
He's getting conflicting orders. His theater commander, Johnston, says, get out of Vicksburg. Ain't worth holding. But the president is telling you, hold Vicksburg. You got to hold it. Now, you two military officers, let me give you a conundrum here. If you're general, what ranks were y'all? Y'all officers?
I was enlisted.
Enlisted?
But I obeyed orders.
Yeah, you obeyed. Say that the Joint Chiefs Staff, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Colin Powell.
He carries a little more weight than your general.
Well, all right. You have the general giving you orders, and you have your orders to stay or whatever. Then the president comes along and tells you, no, do the exact opposite. Which one are you going to obey? Well, you're going to be in trouble either way, right? And Pemberton is in deep doo-doo all of a sudden either way. He doesn't have good options to do either way. But you're going to follow President Davis's orders and hold Vicksburg and forget Johnson. So he is in the process of retreating back toward Vicksburg when he is caught on the morning of May the 16th at the Battle of Champion Hill. Now, again, he has deliberately disobeyed Johnson's order. Bowen and Loring are watching this, and they're saying, if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for me. So they refuse orders throughout the day because they see, you know, we hear what's going on up here, but we don't know if it's really necessary, but we can see Yankees here. I mean, we see them right in front of us, and we're not leaving our position because we could be attacked at any moment. Well, Pemberton just keeps reiterating the orders. Finally, Bowen will move up and support a couple of brigades of Loring's division, leaving Tillman here on that next ridge. Will move up as well, and they arrive too late. But Bowen gets there in time, and we'll talk about this when we get up there, to make this dramatic counterattack at Champion Hill itself and drive across the hill and back and forth, and it's just back and forth up there. But the delay in orders and the disobedience of orders and so on really tags the Confederate Army here. Now, they're having problems way before this, obviously. The command and control has just absolutely broken down by this point, and everybody hates everybody. Everybody's snapping at each other, and it's getting to be a pretty bad situation. So the key, though, is for the Union forces to take these two crossings of Baker's Creek. Now, can you get across? Y'all saw Baker's Creek. Can you get across Baker's Creek if you just went down there and sloshed across it? You probably could. I mean, individually, we could all break apart and just get across the creek. But can you get an army across like that? You can't get wheel vehicles, you can't get artillery, you can't get ammunition, you can't get supplies, you can't get men in formation, in cohesion like that. So you've got to hold one of these two crossings, and ultimately the upper crossing falls into Union hands, and so that leaves Lloyd Tillman, as the rest of the Confederate Army is flowing back in basic chaos, to the lower crossing to get across. That leaves Tillman to hold the line, and that's what he's trying to do at the next ridge over, and that's going to be our next stop, where we see what happens to him. Most of you probably know exactly what happens to him, but we'll talk about it when we get there. Any questions? Here. Yes, sir.
Wasn't there some sort of special relationship between Pemberton and Davis that would cause him maybe to be loyal to the president?
Not to my knowledge, except for the fact that Davis had appointed him a lieutenant general and said, "I have faith in you."
Yeah.
I don't think there was any special connection like probably you see with Leonidas Polk or Albert Sidney Johnston, that they were at West Point together and were old friends and so on. I don't think there's any special connection between Davis and Pemberton. In fact, I kind of get the idea that the only reason Pemberton is here is because we're running out of the others. You know, we're dipping down into the minor leagues basically here. I have a theory on generals, in particular the Civil War. Every generation has its brilliant military leaders, obviously. I mean, we could look at the World War II generation, and you talk about the Nimitzes and the Eisenhowers and the Pattons, and I sure wouldn't add MacArthur in there, but several others. And so every generation probably has that, but the problem with the Civil War is that you take the pool of geniuses that you have, military-wise, and you cut them right down the middle and split them half and half.
Yeah.
So that immediately dilutes each side. And so once some of them, like Albert Sidney Johnston, I'm not saying he's a genius or anything, but they start dying off and getting wounded, like Joseph E. Johnston, and getting, in the doghouse, like Beauregard and so on. Ultimately, you're going to run out of these top-tier guys, and you're going to have to start dipping down into the minor leagues. And what happens to, a baseball team when they're two or three big stars? Any Yankee fans this year? The Stanton and Judge, they all stayed hurt the whole time, and you start dipping down into lower guys, and you just can't fill in. And Pemberton is one of those minor leaguers, I think, that's brought up to the major leagues to fill in for one of the stars. So major problems here already. Any other questions? Sometimes you find a forest. Well, don't get me started on forest. Good to a point, but the whole forest would have won if they put him in control thing. I don't go that far. We can discuss forest later on.
Pemberton's wife a Mississippian?
Who's?
Pemberton's wife? Wasn't he's from?
He's from Pennsylvania, but I think she's from Virginia.
She was from Virginia. Okay, I was wondering if she.
I think the Norfolk area for some reason is that
Virginia.
Yeah, it's Virginia. Now, had he married a Mississippi girl, he would have gone completely, Confederate and would have automatically been enthused with brilliance and would have won the whole war. I mean, it's just how Mississippi are.
No question.
Any other questions? Okay, if you want to look around a little bit more, look at the
Everybody walks off. Let's get away on the porch, on the step there, we're going to do a picture here.
where we're going to do a picture.
I thought we could get everybody.
Women at Camping Hill. I don't remember. That's been years since I've read the book.
At least one that I remember.
Well,
that
Cashier should be here, the 95th Illinois. Are they not?
Not here, no.
Okay.
No.
In the Army, but not participating.
No, okay.
They weren't
they
here.
may be back.
Where they were. Woman that I know here at Champion Hill, don't know her name, but she was with Cockrell's Brigade.
Okay. Oh, Confederate. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Cockrell's Brigade.
Missourians then.
Yes. So of course a very vaunted brigade. Only thing we know about her is that she was She had red hair, she was freckled, and she smoked corncob pipes. That's the only thing we know about her. So, and she was not actually discovered until October '64 when she was wounded and captured at Allatoona with Cochrane. So of course she would have been here previously. So she's the one that I remember off the top of my head.
All right. Somebody was asking about artillery. One of the distances, the ranges of artillery, and so on. Well, here's a perfect representation of the Confederate. Tillman is actually sighting a cannon when he buys the farm there, and Coker House is just on the next ridge up there. Y'all saw how far it was. So this is perfect example of ranges. Those are Union artillery set up in the yard of the Coker House, so you can see exactly what kind of ranges they are shooting at each other and so on. So Lloyd Tillman, interesting figure. He is into it with Pemberton as well. It does not just the division commanders that are into it with Pemberton. Tillman, in fact, I found evidence in the National Archives that Tillman had been relieved of his command just a couple of days before, and Loring stood up for him and said, no, you know, I got to have him, and blah 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 on the eve of battle and so on. So they're all into it. Tillman, interesting history. He's the commander of Fort Henry at Fort Henry and Donaldson up there. Sent everybody. Who's the 10th Tennessee guy? There we are. 10th Tennessee. Hyman's Brigade and all those, sent them to Fort Donaldson. He remained with just the gunners, like 70 of them or so, and surrendered Fort Henry and spends 6 months or so in prison, I believe, in Boston Harbor, in Fort, what's the prison up there? Fort who? Fort Warren, that's it, yeah, Fort Warren. Then is exchanged and becomes a brigade commander in Pemberton's army. Once the troops are reinfused in the army, actually commands the division on some of Grant's Mississippi Central campaign. In fact, the Battle of Coffeyville, Tillman is actually in a division command there. But once the army's reorganized and so on, there are only so many major generals that outrank him that command divisions. There are only so many divisions for those guys, and so Loring, he's placed under Loring, and Loring outranks him. And as a result, Loring gets the division, and he's commanding the brigade. So he's sighting an artillery piece here, and is hit by a projectile in the torso and just tears him all to pieces. As you probably could tell by his monument in Vicksburg National Military Park. Anybody seen that monument? Anybody want to reenact it? It's very dramatic. He's got his sword, you know.
Yeah, leaning back against the horse.
I am pretty sure that's not how it looked, you know. But you know, I wasn't there. Nevertheless, this is the spot. This monument is dedicated. Is there a date on it? I'm thinking 1909 for some reason. Killed afternoon, so Champion Hill. His sons came back and dedicated this monument on the exact spot. Matilda Champion, the original Sid Champion's wife, was here at the dedication. She's in the pictures and all that. So really the only actual monument on the battlefield that was put there by veterans or close to veterans or people that were here during the Civil War. Matilda Champion was here. That generation, I guess, is what we say. So they marked the spot here. So important place, obviously, to come when you're at Champion Hill. Any questions on Tillman?
Were the guns?
They were facing the Union artillery at Coker House. Yeah. Tillman's body actually is taken back. There was another contemporary house extant on the battlefield that was back toward the Baker's Creek crossing, and apparently Tillman was taken there. He like Kennedy or something, dead on arrival, obviously, but the body was taken there. And then removed, farther on. And that house was there until just 10 years or so ago, and I think it was moved, maybe, you may know more about this, to Raymond or somewhere. The house is still around, but it's not on the spot. Check into that. It's around here somewhere, but not in the right place. So, yes, sir.
I found the original picture that you just talked about.
Oh, did you? It's got Matilda Champion in it and so on. You might file by Perry. We're done here unless you got questions. File by Perry, see the picture, and mount up.
So Champion Hill got its name from the family.
From the Champion family.
That was 1909.
I don't know which ones are his sons or anything like that.
Oh, yeah. Champion.
Probably the older men in that picture.
40-something years after.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. Mary Smith. That's Mary Smith.
Well, no, she did well for herself.
Marcellus Crocker, the Coker House. John Sammer, those are the names on this. Marcellus Crocker. Yeah, I'm going to orient everybody.
And all this is on your website?
Cool. Oh, Ed Bars?
Beaton.
Oh.
B-E-A-T.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. This is, let me orient everybody real quick. This is the famous crossroads. Everybody's asking, where's the Jackson Road and all that? Jackson Road comes off the hill, which we're going to walk up to, comes right here, makes this 90-degree angle, and goes out just like we came in. The middle road comes in right here. This is where two divisions of McClernand's division, Osterhaus and Carr, are coming in. This is the Ratliff Road, that if you go down the Ratliff Road, you would eventually get to the Raymond Road, Coker House, and all that. You can't get through there these days. Wish you could. Maybe eventually, if the Civil War Trust buys enough land, we can open that up, make it a whole lot easier for tours and all that kind of stuff. Okay, before we go on,
how much mileage is between the dead end and
I'll show you where we are. Middle Road, Jackson Road, Crossroads right here. So Raymond Road that far.
So a good amount.
Good amount of territory. Yeah. All right. Before we move on, let me introduce you to a very special guest. Sid, come here. I told you about the Champion family owning the Champion Hill land. Well, this is Sid Champion the Fifth. Sid Champion the Fifth. This is Sid and Matilda Champion's great grandson. Is that right?
Two greats is enough.
Two great. Well, you're an old geezer, so you. Sid Champion. I met Sid 20 years ago or 25 years ago.
Yes, and my friend, the great rib eater, was entirely enthralled.
He's a good rib cooker. But he allowed me. If any of you have got the Champion Hill book. And you saw the pictures in the back that had the bloodstained table and stuff like that. You still in your living room or your dining room? It's your house. It was in the Champion house, and we'll show you. We'll walk down and show you where the Champion house was originally. And then later on, we're still going out to their graves. Is that still a possibility?
To the house?
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned that. We'll take you out and show you Sid and Matilda's graves. The Champion house was destroyed during the war, and then they built the new house out there, and you're going to build a house and retire out there eventually, aren't you? So anyway, he'll show us all of that. So it's a treat to have Sid Champion with us.
I don't know who he's calling a guest, though. I kind of wonder.
Well, guest on your own land, right? Yeah. Sid's a mess, so you'll get to know him. So thank you, Sid, for letting us come out here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for letting. He still owns the hill and the land, and so it's a very nice thing for him to let us go out there. So we really appreciate that.
And
so
just
you'll get
as a
to know.
side note, after I croak, this is all going to belong to the National Park Service.
Great.
Right over here, they own it on the other side. They own it right over here. We're going to try and see if we can get things more solidified. Like that. When you get up on the top of the hill, you'll see. Come on.
You'll see. Let's stand on out.
come on. Do it.
I didn't see her.
driving around outside.
Trying to figure out what we were doing. Maybe could have been.
Do not use the benches.
Well, we knocked them off earlier. Good.
Was there some sort of a trace to this road down here before there was a Jackson or a Vicksburg?
I don't know about that. I just know that this was the main road between Jackson and Vicksburg from the 1840s on.
Pretty deep trace like goes along the Natchez Trail.
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
Carry the tail gunner up here. All right. The competitors on top of the hill. See it? This is just goes. You want to talk to them? Here's your help.
I was going to tell them about the family, but not
Tell them. Okay, well, we're going down to
Jackson. That'll be good. I want to save that breath for coming back up, because that'll be the second time today.
Sid, are you related to the Meade family?
Not that I'm aware of.
I remember somebody telling us about General Meade's sister married somebody.
Yep, to the farther
She
side.
did. Yeah. She did, and she utilized his name a few times to help get him out of the jam.
Oh, okay.
Sergeants, is that who their family was? I can't remember.
If you make me utter a name in public, it won't be the right
Won't be the right one. I can't remember. Shelby, you may know the General Meade's sister lived on a plantation south of Vicksburg.
That book at home.
I can't remember her name though.
It's retired.
Anyway, all right. This is Champion Hill, or what is left of it. The rest of the hill was dug out in the 1930s and sold for gravel. There's probably part of Champion Hill all over Hines and Rankin County. Yeah, you can kind of see where it was dug out. And when we go back down and go around, you'll be able to see where it was dug out. Probably a little higher than it was now. Terry Winchell always tells the story when he comes up here of I think that pine tree right over there, that Ed Bars told him 40 years ago or whatever that the hill was probably that high. Of course, that thing has grown 40 years now since then, so that doesn't do us just a whole lot of good. But the hill was probably a little higher. It was an area where you could have artillery up here. A couple of guns of Alabama battery, some of the Waddell's battery, and others are up here, Oban chain and so on. So you could see, and this is really good. When did you cut this? Just 5 years ago? It's starting to grow up a little bit, but you can really get a view shed. You can see how high you are. Last time I was up here, maybe in the winter more or something, you could probably see the Pearl River Valley out there actually. So really good view shed. That you can see better now, but it would have been open then, obviously, and you could see from the top of the hill the bald top of the hill, you can see the Union forces forming down in the valley, and we got a ways to go down in the bottom down there to the champion house, and then we'll come back up, of course. So Hovey's division, we said we would put the different divisions on the line. The middle road, Osterhouse and Carr, already talked about them. They don't do much of anything. They're kind of like Smith and Blair down on the Raymond Road. They don't push very hard. The main attack comes down the Jackson Road, where Alvin Hovey and John Logan's division will push forward. Hovey actually straddling the Jackson Road, Slack on one side. Who mentioned James Slack just a minute ago there? James Slack on one side, George McGinnis on the other, and then Logan's division fanned out farther to the west with Leggett and John E. Smith and who's the other? John D. Stevenson, I believe. And what they're doing, they're pushing forward, and they're going to drive back the Confederate left. Remember, we talked about Stevenson was the rear moving in. Now he's turned around, and they're the lead going back out. Reynolds' brigade, the one guarding the wagon train, has gotten across that upper crossing of Baker's Creek by this time with the train to keep it safe. But the other three brigades, Stephen D. Lee, which is just to the west here, Alfred Cumming, which holds the hill and kind of bends around with those Georgia regiments. Who had 34th Georgia, 36th Georgia, somebody?
Yes.
40th. Yeah, 40th, yeah. And Stephen D. Lee, who had, you had
46 Alabama.
46th and 30th Alabama, a little farther to the west, extending this line. So you're in the general area of your folks. Now again, it's not a national military park that was established in the 1890s, where veterans, don't we wish veterans had come back here and had said, this is where the 34th Georgia was, this is where the so-and-so was. That would have been, you know, absolutely great. But we're doing the best we can now with the Civil War Trust and folks like Sid Champion that are preserving their land and making it available to us. So we definitely applaud that. So we have the Confederate line situated on Champion Hill. The Union force is pushing forward in this grand attack uphill. I always mention this in doing several talks about why Champion Hill happened the way it did and so on, and it wasn't because of terrain. We studied terrain enough at Shiloh to know that terrain is a major factor at Shiloh, right? Big factor. Is it so much here? You would think this is more like a Chattanooga or something. You'd think the Confederates would have a really distinct advantage here, but the Union forces just roll right up and over them here. To me, Champion Hill is more leadership oriented than terrain oriented. So they drive the Confederates back all the way to the crossroads, as we talked about. Then Bowen makes that counterattack, drives a hole into, let me look at this map. Yeah, here you've got Bowen's counterattack, driving a hole in the Union Army. Then Grant brings up Crocker's division, was Isaac Quimby's division, Crocker's division, and they slam into Bowen down around the Champion House that we're going to see, and ultimately drive them back. And we could get into brigades and regiments and so on, but suffice it to say, on this level, this place is being fought over back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. This is really truly special ground right here, where Americans died just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Heavy fighting across this hill. Anything you want to say? Anything?
Yeah, you want to go down to the double trenches?
Yeah, let's go down to double trenches, and then we'll hit where the houses are. You'll see the terrain a little bit as we go down to what's called the double trenches. It's hard to tell. There was a bunch of, yeah, when we get down to the bottom, you'll see kind of a good, I think around it. It's lots. Unfortunately,
It didn't look like the hill was this tall. Yeah. So you see him walking down there.
The previous place we were at was fought in December of '62. May of
Confederates received none of those courtesies, except for the ravine that I mentioned right there at the sign, and they just threw them off in there, and that was about it. So it was in 1866 they dug them up and took them to Vicksburg, to the National Cemetery. They're not Confederate. Oh, they didn't do anything with the Confederates. They weren't American citizens. They were citizens of a rebellious nation. Why should we bury them? Was the common courtesy thought. But here it is. And why did they have them so long? Because they had that many men to bury. And they always had a fire going so they could keep the coffee going. I'm serious, they drank a lot of coffee burying the dead. You had to have something to keep you going. Don't you know that stuff tasted good after it boiled about 4 or 5 hours? Yeah. And also, we found some spattered lead here a while back. And a friend of mine finally clued me in on what it was. In May here, the mosquitoes are going to wear you out. So, they were taking drops, still got the powder in them, throw them in the fire, and that black powder smoke, boy, that'd run the mosquitoes off in a hurry for a little while. But that's what that spattered lead is, and for years I had no clue. Finally said, oh, you don't know what that is? No, that's why I'm asking you. So here we are at the burial trenches.
Very good.
Is this the only identified Union burial site?
I've got 2 burial pits. But this is where our final marker is going to be placed. I've got Dr. Bruce Stanley at Fort Leavenworth is researching, trying to find out just who it was, you know, what outfits were buried in here. And we want to give them credit for the time that they were here.
Do you have a ballpark number as to how many were here?
Nope. Not in this trench, no. Hadn't got a clue, but...
Would there be a record in how many units that dug them up?
That's why I'm letting Bruce Stanley do it. He's up at School of Advanced Military Sciences at Fort Leavenworth, and he's got a much better way to research than I do on my phone going, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it.
I get that. No, I just didn't know if anybody, they must have kept records when they...
They did. You'd have to go back to graves registration at that time, and just where you'd have to look for it is a good question.
It is digitized now.
The bodies would be deteriorated by then.
But they gave you units.
It's on Ancestry.
Well, you would know units in the area. This has been Logan. Well, that would there'd be no dog tag.
No, yeah, but they had belt buckles, they had their belt buckles and buttons are all the same.
You had things there with
Burial trenches.
It's about 3 feet wide and 5 feet deep.
or if they took away
78 yards long.
And the mounds are the dirt that's still at.
Correct.
That's what happened here. And why is it so long? Because they had so
But
many
it would have been you identifying your friends here.
Well, what I'm saying is there are half a dozen Confederate soldiers identified as being buried there. Look at the time of burial, and they looked and found something. Oh, 13.
Any particular reason why here? I mean, if there's some
I'm guessing, and it's strictly a guess, that it's a good central location to all the bodies they had to drag in.
there,
And it's easier to drag them downhill than it is uphill. It's easier to mule and sled. Sledge, like my friend's grandmama used to call it.
67. Couple of years
In
after
'66, they wanted to get them up out of the rebellious land quick as they could. I don't know how long he wants to spend here. He was talking about going down, walking down the church. Well, that's another half a mile down there and back. And then another half a mile back to the parking area. So I'm not sure where he's going with it. I'll leg it with him.
We're not back there.
That's a nice leg he's got.
Some more of the Union burial trenches.
Three foot, 5 foot, 78 yards.
The amount of stuff that they have. They do. They don't feel they play FCCC. I mean, I'm a huge Big Ten fan. But you're not in the same league as FCC. Back when I was growing up, I thought Pakistan was crazy. We are. Then I moved to Tennessee.
Yeah. This is the historic Jackson Road.
We don't know where they're buried. Had to get permission from the State Department of Archives and History to put it out here. Really? Yeah. It was on state land.
Oh, well.
So this is not your land here?
No, this is national park land right here. So all of you that have got guns, you need to give them to me.
I'm sorry, what was this? Tim, what was this?
This is the Abney Family Cemetery. Sid said this is the family that owned it before the Champion family owned it. And so if you look at the dates, like born in 1765 in South Carolina, died 1831. He said these were probably the original grant owners. And then I think his family acquires the land in 1858, I think he said. So these were the original landowners.
Looks like a new.
Yeah, I think it was still that rough original. So, you know, if they kept hold of it, this could have been the Battle of Abney here. Right.
Just sort of going along the route here and then hanging on to the twig.
No, I'm gonna keep going.
And there's somebody carved a heart in there, in the base.
Well, like I said, I couldn't still keep a helper outside of and around Antietam. The exact same things were going on right here that day. This was blood-soaked ground. Bodies and body parts were placed back over here. The arms and legs were taken further down and dumped. Remember, I told you it was an extremely hot day that day, and they were having to get these people in the ground in a hurry. And what else? All I know is it was a horrible place to be on that day. All the men groaning and moaning and screaming. Men laid out head to foot on the dining room table and operated on. The blood getting so thick on the ground, on the floor, orderly had to take a hatchet, chop a hole in the floor, sweep the blood out, throw straw down, keeps them all from slip sliding away. Confederates were buried right back over here. The Union also were dug up in 1866 that passed here. But the Confederates are still here. And these are my great-great-grandparents.
I see a resemblance.
I was about to say, can't you see the resemblance?
The one on the right, yeah. Oh, yeah, I got it now. I got it.
Actually,
Which one do you
not
look like?
too much, because he's got all that luxurious hair on his head. Never me. When I was 20 years old, I had a size of a quarter or bigger that was already slick. But Matilda and Sid weathered the war. It was a horrendous conflict that they took part in. Sid started off over at Vicksburg, where he took part in the Chickasaw Bayou Walnut Hill battle. Then he took part in, well, after this, he was under Pemberton at their headquarters over in Edwards on the day of the battle. Then he went to Vicksburg. He came out of there and went to parole camp over at Enterprise, Mississippi, south of Meridian. And since he was a plantation owner, he was allowed to have unescorted day passes. Yeah, you heard me. Unescorted day passes. Matilda came over and visited with him. Then his outfit was exchanged. 28th Cavalry Company I, Mississippi Volunteers, was back in business again, and he went over to Alabama, North Alabama, and fought. Then he went over to Atlanta, Georgia, where he saw Joe Johnston get on the train after being sacked by Davis and replaced by Hood. He witnessed that. He was there for the burning and Battle of Atlanta. He then went north in North Georgia to Altoona Pass and Kennesaw Mountain in 100 days running combat. And then in the winter of 1864, Sid was shot through the throat. He comes home to what's called the refuge home, because this home had been burned at that time. So he makes it back, and I'm sure that would have been a story in itself, because he's up on Mount Carmel Road up in Tennessee. And we're talking about coming all the way down here to an area not too far from here. Well, he makes it through the war, and on the latter part of April of 1865, Matilda receives a letter that says, among other things, how did he phrase that? The assassination of Lincoln has now been confirmed. We will no more fight like we had, but we will win the war yet. Now, this was after Lincoln had been assassinated and Robert E. Lee was fleeing all through Virginia. So Sid still believed that they could win the war. Well, they didn't. He comes home, and in 1868, he dies of what they call the malignant bilious fever, leaving Matilda to raise their 4 children, which she does. And she's now behind plow handles. She's now doing everything on there that has to be done that the other folks can't get done. And she had slaves that stayed with her after the war, because freedom was kind of a scary proposition to them. And they found out that Matilda could work just as hard as they could. And Matilda was about 5 foot even, green-eyed, and red-headed. Daughter of Scottish royalty. She didn't give in to anybody. And she raised that family. And in 1907, at the end of her life, she was invited over to Vicksburg to take part as a guest of the governor of Illinois at the dedication of the Illinois Monument. And I've got a picture of her there at that ceremony. And I've also got the invitation she received, which is a pretty nice little piece of stuff too. And it wasn't too long after that that Matilda passed away. End of story. Sort of. Not quite. She outlived her husband, her second husband, and all of her children from that family. But she kept it all together, and we still have a good bit of the family farm left. Okay, let's hoof it. It's going to be getting dark for long if you want to get over to the house.
A couple of questions. The letters, Sid Champion letters, the originals are in Duke University, is that? Is that where they are?
No, they got copies.
Oh, they got
I
copies.
got the originals.
You've
over
got the
100
originals.
of them.
Okay. The champion letters are absolutely wonderful. If you ever get a chance to
buy
look
my
at
book.
those. Yeah. The other thing, do you know where the actual footprint of the house was? Is
Right
there
back over here. It was just right off the side of
right
the
off
old
the side?
Jackson
Okay,
Road.
so there was the big oak tree.
Oh, excuse me, this side, right over here. I'm
yeah.
doing this behind the sign, and y'all looking at me where?
So the oak trees were in the front yard, right?
Yep.
There's another
she
oak
planted
tree.
a big ring
Yep.
of them because she liked them, and I'm sure that they were taken care of, watered, and everything as needed. And there was just a big ring of them around the house, and the Yanks cut them all down and saved that one as a fire break on the night of May 16th, 1863, in case of Confederate counterattack, which was kind of ludicrous considering they were scuttling back west as fast as they could go.
So that's the witness tree.
That's the witness tree.
One more thing, I thought about you the other day. I started to call you. You talked about Chickasaw Bayou. I was researching Chickasaw Bayou. Have you read stuff in Confederate Veteran about the famous ride that took place behind the Confederate lines along the road there? Several Confederate veterans later on wrote into the magazine that was Confederate Veteran and said, we saw somebody making a very daring ride from one end of the line to the other. And who was it? Anybody know who it was? Well, people started writing in and saying, well, it was so-and-so, and we know who it was, and it was so-and-so. Several people probably made rides and so on, but some of it was your family.
Robert Champion.
That was
And
Sid's
Nathan
nephew,
Champion.
right? So you've seen all of that stuff and so on. That's really cool. He was on the staff of Stephen
The
D.
Yanks
Lee, right?
cheered him along.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
shot at him and then cheered at him.
Supposedly hat in his teeth, and he's riding along and all that kind of stuff. So that's good stuff.
His
Yet
memory's
another
just fine.
champion that is in the history books there.
Yeah, and there's one of them that after the war went out to Texas and got hung for stealing horses.
Skeleton in every closet. Right? All right, let's charge up Champion Hill.
In Alabama, we got 16.
Never dropped a single acorn. If anybody wants a piece of it, there's some on the ground over there.
Too late? Are you still good to going out and seeing their graves, or are you still good with taking us out to see the graves, or?
Cemetery, yes.
Okay, all right. At this point, of course, we are getting pretty late. What time is it? 5 o'clock.
Almost.
If anybody needs to get back, go find the interstate, and you're on your own. Yeah. But you're certainly welcome to go out and see Sid and Matilda, the original Sid and Matilda's graves. It's literally once in a lifetime, probably chance to do that, and their second house. So the group will go out there. We'll follow Sid. If you absolutely need to go, got a pressing timing and so on, take off.
15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour?
15 minutes, probably won't be out there long. I know Sid's busy and needs to get on. So yeah, we won't be out there just a couple of minutes. How long does it take to drive around and get out there? 10 minutes?
About 45 minutes to an hour.
I hope it's fun.
10 minutes, yeah. And we'll just see the graves and let Sid go. We've taxed Sid enough already, so.
Yeah, what did y'all bring me anyway? You come out on my place, what y'all bring me?
There's a water bottle there, so. Are we sure Perry's coming?
Yes, he's
Champion Hill, and this house that's falling down was never intended to be the full-time home of Sid and Matilda Champion. They figured they would get a few cotton crops under their belts, and then they would be able to build something besides this temporary place. Well, in 1868, Sid died, and Matilda was left to raise the children, get in the crops, because you had to pay land taxes. You didn't want to lose your land, and school the kids, look out after them all. I mean, it was Reconstruction was hard on white people. It must have been pure hell on the black folks, because it was the things that she wrote about taking dishwater that had been used for one thing and repurposing it into something else, and then repurposing that into something else, and whatever you had, you made do with, and if you didn't have it, well, you just didn't use it. Now we're going to go walk back to the back of the place. Oh, the final marker that you have not seen that you will see today possibly, is just right down here. It's for Midway Station, the railroad station, one of the places that Grant was intending to break the Confederates apart. And what else? Let's go.
The railroad is just right in the woods right there.
The railroad's about 200 yards downhill, if that far. Okay, baby. And we got one of those military markers from the federal government. For free. Anybody that wants to can pull out their phone and hit the flashlight and show it to me. That is Stephen Timothy Fritz. She's not buried here though. A friend of mine wanted to give us a marker to remember her by. Now we got Sid the first over here, then son Balfour, and it says Matilda on this one, but that's not correct. The stones are switched, and we just hadn't gotten around to switching them back yet, I guess, because she was the very last one in this family to pass. So she was at the end of the line, you could say.
So Matilda's at the end of the line?
Yep.
Okay.
And that kettle right there was the plantation kettle. And I've got a letter from a one-armed Union judge up in Fargo, North Dakota, wanting to know if Matilda still had the kettle that they made many a meal of weak stew and soup out of as he recovered from getting his arm cut off on her dining room table. And that, I've got his signature. I looked him up online, and he was a judge for a long time. I mean, he was like, he didn't let the lack of an arm slow him down, let's put it that way. And yep, that's it right there. So that's pre-Civil War kettle, but it's split, and you know, that old cast metal just doesn't stay together half the time. And it's heavy. All the years I knew of it, it was sitting on the other side of the house outside of my grandmother's window, her bedroom window, and it was loaded up with flowers. I didn't know it was I didn't know it was all that went along with it. There, but that's another memory stone, like the one from my wife and the one from my buddy Fritz over here, who just happened to up and die on the back porch of the house there some years back. Heart quit. We got several cameos. I guess we'd call them kittios. Catty. I like that too. But folks, that's all I can tell you. If you want to go down and look at the marker for Midway Station, it's down there past, well, in the same direction he's going, just about. You can see the post glowing at you in the half light.
Well, Sid, on behalf of the group, man, we appreciate you letting us out here. Thank you so much. All right. That's history walking there. That's amazing. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we'll get out of your hair. I know you're ready to get home.
And
every time I talk to him, he's eating a ribeye, so we'll let you go to your ribeye.
Actually, I've got some red snapper that I'm going to be putting on.
Can't go wrong with that.
And the reason I've got ladders around the trees is because the deer will peel them otherwise.
And they won't go under the
I
ladder.
covered one of them up because I knew they were going to get it, so they got most all of my peach trees instead. Oh, but one of them they peeled. I've got a piece on a mound in a cemetery. And even though it doesn't look all that blood, it's still the mound with the cemetery because we've been through the court records, and that's the only one.